I'm really excited to have Jack Liu today, founder and CEO of Magic Eden on Crypto Driven. Welcome, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Lisa.
So, for those who aren't familiar, Magic Eden is the leading NFT marketplace on Solana. It's currently doing almost a million transactions a week, makes over 90% of the market share for Solana NFT transactions. And what's all the more impressive is you launched just about a year ago and have achieved all of that success. And on top of all that, you just raised $130 million Series B at a $1.6 billion valuation, and all of that in a bear market, no less. So, congrats on all the progress, congrats on all the success, and yeah, really excited to chat more today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Lisa. Yeah, very glad to share a bit of the story of Magic Eden here.
Awesome. So, wanted to start off with the origin story here. So, Magic Eden was not the first NFT marketplace, and also wasn't the first NFT marketplace focused on the Solana ecosystem. So, you had to overcome kind of both the cold start problem of that all marketplaces face, as well as the network effects that existing NFT marketplaces already had. So, talk me through like how did you do that? What was that like?
Yeah, absolutely. It was pretty tough, like to put it candidly, and like if to be really honest, I think there was no silver bullet, right? There wasn't like one tactic or one perspective we used that really unlocked a lot. It was really it was a lot about like just hustling. Like I remember someone else asked me a pretty similar question a couple of weeks ago, and really it was we just did tried anything and everything, and were working on like all hours of the day to make something work. But I think there were a couple of things that maybe we just particularly spiked on that did help us a little, and it was a combination of a few factors. I think number one, we have four founders at Magic Eden. Myself and Joshin, my business side co-founder, we both came from crypto exchange background. So I worked at FTX. He worked at DYDX, one of the largest DeFi perp exchanges, and then Coinbase. And then my two technical co-founders, Sid and Joji, they were like OG engineers at Uber. So they came from massive consumer marketplace background. And I think like when we were building the product initially, like the combination of those two mindsets, like crypto exchange and consumer marketplace, that really fits well with the NFT marketplace kind of business model, right? The app and the software looks like a consumer marketplace, but the business model looks a lot like a crypto exchange.
Right.
So with that mindset, a couple of things I think we innovated on that helped along the way was number one, we were the first to launch like a launchpad product, which is basically a primary product. At that time in Solana, all marketplaces serve secondaries only, so like user to user trading, but no one was serving like creator to user initial sales of those NFTs. But there is like a very strong network effect between the primary market and the secondary market, just like on crypto exchanges, right? So if we get a creator and he or she has a really hot NFT collection mint coming up, there is basically like excess amounts of demand for those NFTs.
Right.
And once that mint happens on Magic Eden, folks who could not buy it at the primary sale, they'll want to go to the secondary sale and scoop that up. So if you land the primary sale, you also that kind of lends itself to the secondary sale. So I think our position to be the first to launch this launchpad product really helped us a lot. I think secondly, just in general, like we had a lot of community sympathy, like in the sense of me and Joshua, we came from this crypto background, and we're very much in the in like crypto culture in a way, right? Like crypto culture is kind of weird, like it's cultish, it's irreverent, it's meme, people like troll each other, but we really have this belief of like building a product and building a business of like meeting users on their level, like not trying to have users come to us and do things to ask them to meet us where we are, but trying to meet the users where they are. So in that sense, I think Magic Eden from very early on has built this reputation of being very community driven. So we like in the community, we have like an intern who like shit posts on Twitter. We also have a DAO where we invite community to participate in like platform policies and so on. And I think those things were very quite a refreshing change to what other marketplaces are doing, and that really helped us get a lot of community traction and loyalty that way.
Got it. So the users really felt you embodied that ethos and kind
Yeah.
of attracted them over.
Yeah.
Was that similar? So for the first set of, I don't know, 10, 20 creators, was that similar on what attracted them to you, or were you targeting a different base than some of the other marketplaces?
No, so at that time, the first 10, 20 creators, we actually didn't even have a product. So we had like a white paper that I wrote and like a screenshot of this like Figma that we had, and we're kind of mainly just selling vaporware. We're saying, hey, here's this doc about this product we are going to launch, but please, 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 please trust us that we're like legit and we're gonna serve you guys well. But I mean, at the same time, um, there were a couple of things like at that time, really early on, the other marketplaces had a very curated model. So they were very, yeah, effective, like centralized gatekeepers, and they were picking out quality projects.
Hmm.
But it's impossible, right? There was this explosion of collections and creators, and there was a lot of quality collections and creators who just weren't even getting the time of day from those incumbents at that time.
Right.
So when we came along and we were really like coming with a lot of humility and with this like service kind of attitude, they thought that was very refreshing.
Hmm.
And I think the second thing that was, to be honest, like there's always a healthy dose of luck involved in everything as well, right? I think the lucky part was also that in Seoul, because Solana is more seen as a frontier chain, like an alt chain, compared to like Ethereum and so on.
Hmm.
In general, the creators and users on Solana are mentality-wise like early adopters because they moved from, one they moved from Web 2 to Web 3, and then
Right.
two they moved from Ethereum to like something that's more frontier. So they're much more willing to just experiment and give people the new projects the time of day. So even though we came in, there was a lot of incumbents. We only had like a vaporware white paper. A lot of people still, gave us feedback, were willing to launch with us, at least try a product that time.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, it's a interesting characterization of the Solana ecosystem. So would you say your user base maybe on both sides is a more advanced user, maybe someone who has a little bit more experience in crypto, and has that affected the way you've built the company on both sides?
Um, I would say that I actually think now that's not the case, right?
Hmm.
I actually think, well, there's a couple of things there. I think one, NFTs have become is a much more consumer use case for crypto vis-a-vis like other crypto use cases, in times past. If you think about crypto use cases pre-NFTs, it was like DeFi trading, exchanges, yield farming. Those are like fairly mining, like those are fairly like abstract, financialized concepts. And you kind of have to be pretty deep in the crypto scene or like come from a finance or technologist background to like really grok those things and be like deep into it. But NFTs is about fun, it's about culture, it's about community, it's about celebrities, right? It's about like parties and all of this kind of stuff. So actually, now that NFT has kind of gone through this boom cycle, now what we see is the users on Sol, they are pretty retail. They're like first time crypto users.
Hmm.
And because Solana has that value proposition of like really low cost, really fast, you can build like generally very smooth consumer experiences on top of it. We've been it's actually been really pleasant to see like our influx of just net new like first time crypto users on our Solana product. I think at the early days, on the creator side, on Sol, they were more, you might call them more like crypto native advanced users. They maybe have been in crypto for a while. Now they want to think about launching a project. They were very interested in experimenting with NFTs, this new like primitive. But I could say maybe that was a little bit more true in the early days. But even now, we see like very, very retail, like first time NFT creators as well on Solana. Yeah.
Hmm. And so your decision to build in Solana was a very intentional one. You listed some of the advantages, especially over Ethereum, but had you and the team spent a lot of time in the ecosystem? I guess a year ago was still relatively early to take a bet on the ecosystem. But yeah, how did you get comfortable? What made you so compelled to start Magic Eden in Solana?
Yeah, it was definitely a very intentional choice. I think my co-founders like Sid, he's like a crypto OG. So he started like a Bitcoin startup in 2013. So he's like a boomer in like crypto terms. But he saw like Bitcoin, Ethereum, then like all the altcoins. And then Joshin Z, our other co-founder, was like he was more like a ETH. He was like very deep into ETH. He's not an ETH maxi, but definitely he's like a very deep in the ETH ecosystem coming from DYDX and like DeFi and so on. So we did have a view of like all the different ecosystems and all the potential. But at that time, the choice around Solana was like two main reasons, right? Number one, DNA wise, we are more like a product company
Hmm.
where we come from like consumer product management, consumer like product engineering kind of background. Um, so our main focus is, hey, like how do we serve users and deliver value to users? But like as long as the tech really works and can enable that, like that's good enough for us. And we don't want to think too much about like consensus algorithms and stuff like that. That's not really our forte. Our forte is much more about building really slick and polished experiences. So therefore, we definitely wanted to choose a chain that can enable that. And Sol like definitely fits the bill because, you know, everything is cheap. It's really nice to build an experience. And at that time, we also had this bet that like we are so early in NFTs that there should be a boom, like an explosion in use cases and experimentation, and we should ride that boom. And you would naturally think that that explosion would happen where on chains or ecosystem where the cost of experimentation and innovation is very low, right?
Right.
Like very low cost chains. So that was like one part of the thinking process. And the other one was, yeah, I was working at FTX previous to Magic Eden, who are like very big Solana supporters. So that did give me a bit of a front seat view into like under the hood how this ecosystem was developing. I saw a lot of very, very talented developers come into the ecosystem and a lot of capital. And that kind of gave us also the conviction that hey, this ecosystem is actually going to thrive, right? Even though it was very early. So yeah, those two things definitely helped a lot with the decision.
Yep. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about your primary marketplace, Launchpad, and how that's been a competitive advantage for you guys. But can you tell us a little bit more about the strategy there? In particular, I'm curious on the creator side. Why do creators choose to mint their projects on Magic Eden when now there are dozens of ways to bring their products to market? And then how do you support your artists post launch?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, it is like kind of different between different ecosystems. I think on
Hmm.
Sol, because we came out with Launchpad so early and we had a fairly robust and refined product that we made a lot of investments in, it's become almost de jour to have like Launchpad as like a product that's like attached to marketplaces and so on. Whereas as we're entering ETH and we've done like one ETH Launchpad with a fairly OG like ETH creator called Psychedelic Anonymous, we're also discovering that the Ethereum ecosystem is much like less used to the concept of Launchpad.
Hmm.
But I think like Launchpad, from a user's motivation perspective, there's a lot of benefits, right? Number one is if you're a creator, launching your NFT collection is one of the most emotional, angsty like moments in your like journey because you spend months like building a community, like getting art done, and like thinking about the roadmap of what you want to do with this NFT collection. There's like
Twitter
tons of
hyping.
yeah, Twitter hyping. There's like tons of work that goes into this, and but everything could become make or break in like 1 hour, right? You
Hmm.
could, you know, basically like gain amazing like financial success and like career success and brand success for yourself in 1 hour, or it could be a total flop, right?
Hmm.
And all of your followers and your fans would be like highly disappointed. So it's very very angsty. But at the same time, like to launch an NFT collection, there is like a fragmented set of tools that you can use, a very fragmented developer ecosystem.
Yep.
It's fraught with like security risks where like contracts would get hacked, would get botted. And then there is also this clandestine knowledge about like what is the market sentiment right now? How should you think about pricing? How do you want to do collaborations with other communities? All of those like clandestine knowledge is being developed as the market see more and more launches. So
Hmm.
therefore, for like a central dedicated service provider provide this launchpad service, it kind of makes sense because when we come along, we can say, hey, we've done 300 launches today. Like we're probably the most track record launchpad service in the market. We've seen all different types of launch mechanisms, whether it's auctions, Dutch auctions, English auctions, first come, first serve, whitelist, yada, yada, yada. We've seen them all, and we can tell you about the pros and cons. We've seen a wide array of do's and don'ts, like major creators who had like very outsized success and also things have fallen flops, and we can introduce folks to, like people who have done it before to you to get that advice.
Right.
And lastly, like we're like a legit technology company with like a legit team who have built this technology and battle hardened this launchpad technology over many reps, and you don't have to worry about security risks and so on. So we offer those kind of services to basically alleviate the emotional process for creators. And we chose Launchpad as the tip of the spear, like the first creator product, because when we think about a creator's user journey as they create an NFT collection, the launch is the one that seems to be the most painful and the most emotive.
Absolutely.
There's many things that they need, but we wanted to start with that, and we wanted to launch something with that.
Yeah, I mean it's such an acute pain point for the creators, but it's also, from your vantage point, having them have a successful launch, right? Both the mint and the secondary is also aligned with your business model and the success and the popularity of the platform. So I think it makes a ton of sense. And as an NFT collector myself, I've seen really promising projects go south in a matter of minutes, because it's a lot of expertise for one small team, inexperienced team to have. So it makes a ton of sense. I guess the obvious question to follow up there is, as you think about scaling user base, ecosystem, etc., there's two aspects of that. There's the curation part of which projects you choose to take, and then obviously all the support services. So, how are you thinking about that long term? Is that always going to be a part of the business? Is that something you want to decentralize to the community? I'm sure this is all TBD. Talk me through it.
Yeah, you mean like for Launchpad specifically,
For
or
Launchpad.
like for?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, like Launchpad is a insanely complicated business and product line to run. Even though from like a product experience perspective, it's really straightforward. It's like a single page app with a button, right? And that's basically it. But a lot of things happen under the hood. And to be honest, our philosophy has like evolved over time as we like experience more things. There was definitely a point in time where we were almost like decentralization maxis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because we came from that like crypto native background,
Mm-hmm.
and we were like, yeah, like, hey, this should be community first, choice first, freedom first, do your own research, all of that kind of stuff. And then we realized over time that actually, like for something like Launchpad, that's quite infeasible, because there is this high user expectation of, trust, safety, reliability, transparency, quality, right? And inevitably, to be successful at this product line, you have to have an element of curation, and you have to have an element of like control.
Yep.
So that's kind of how our like thinking has evolved. And to put it more succinctly, I think like we are now, our guiding philosophy is much more about like how do we give value and give utility back to the users? How do we be helpful to them, right? And how do we make this an amazing experience? And let's use that as the North Star for Launchpad. And then what technology thing we use to wire that thing up together, whether it's like decentralization or centralization, or whether it's like, Web3 or Web2 technology, those are just more like instruments to create that. But the thing first is like, let's give the user value, right? And then we'll figure out like the pipes to and the instruments to enable that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to get your perspective just on the broader market, and maybe a little bit on the competitive landscape, what you're seeing, across. There's obviously your direct competitors in the Solana ecosystem. There's some, other alt-chain marketplaces. There's vertical marketplaces. There's white label marketplaces. I mean, what do you make of all that? Does any of that change your strategy at all? I think you've talked a little bit about, what makes you guys different. But yeah, tell me what's going on in the market and how you guys are thinking about it.
Yeah, I would say that as a guiding thing, we focus more on our users and trying to do our own thing, right? So that's like first and foremost. So we have our own like strategy and our own vision of the growth loop that we need to like basically strengthen and accelerate, and that's our like kind of our guiding thing. But of course, it's crypto, right? And crypto is crazy, and like the market structure is like very unstable.
Yeah.
So there is always there's always like new things popping up. We do keep a healthy eye on like new trends and like new kind of new players or new models or new innovations, and we see like if there's things that we can like kind of learn from. I was basically say right now some highlights about what I think about the market is number one, it's obviously a bear. It's a bear for not just NFTs, but it's just crypto growth assets, like just
Yep.
driven by macro stuff. But at the same time, a lot of the time it's really but how well the ecosystem does is still driven by like creators, right?
Mhm.
Because the way this works is it's the creators who create innovative use cases, and those use cases drive like end user like a demand and end user inflow. And we are more like some commerce layer that enables this whole thing to happen in a smooth, trusted, like reliable kind of way. So all that to say is like, yes, there is some like general macro like bearishness or flatlining, but that doesn't. It's the individuals and the individual use cases and the individual creators who are still driving a lot of who can drive a lot of outsized performance, and we should really focus on that. And the fact that we can have a 300,000 soul kind of day, which would be like a, I think it would be like a top 5 day all time in Magic Eden lifetime, shows that there is still continued and sustained like user interest in this NFT use case altogether. I think the second thing is that like, of course, just in general now, I would say that um, the uh, the users, like the curious users, the crypto curious users who came to check out NFTs, a lot of them have receded, and that's just
Mhm.
and now it's more like the power users and the missionaries who are like remaining in the ecosystem. And that's true throughout the history of crypto through different cycles. And it's true in many use cases, not just NFTs and Solana. It's also true in DeFi. It's also true in like fungible token trading and so on. So what we are really focused on now is, okay, knowing that these are the users that remain, how can we like better serve them? Because this is now the dominant like user motivation that we have to think about. And to that point, like a few days ago, we launched this thing called pro trading, where it's much more. We launched it on this a very like very high performance Solana collection called Tubes, and it basically allows the user to have basically much more rich data around like trading patterns and so on and so forth, much more rich like statistical rarity information, and then it gives them this like live, almost like fungible trading experience, like an order book kind of experience on the side. And really, that is for like power users who are into the numbers and into ROI and really thinking about how to kind of optimize their trading that way. So that feature was like super well received by the market. And I think also validates our view of like who are the really remaining users and what's the dominant user motivation now, like within this current market structure.
Yeah, that's really consistent. With other founders I've talked to, especially those who are kind of serving a power user, advanced user already, not seeing that much decline in their usage versus, marketplaces that had relied on, either people trying to come in and make a quick profit or people who are kind of crypto curious. So I think that makes a lot of sense and sounds like it's really focusing your strategy during this time
Yeah.
with consistent usage.
Yeah, I would say like even for us, even though volume is down for us like on a like net average basis month to month, but like our transaction counts, so like user engagement is at all-time high. Like
Wow.
every month we are getting more and more transaction counts. And I would say volume wise we're around like 90% of the Solana ecosystem, like by market share, but by transaction count we are like over 97%.
Wow.
So to me it's like a signal that yes, people are trading less, but the engagement is really high. So I actually think that they're spending less money, but they are using the product even more, right? So to me, that's a pretty good signal of like whatever we're doing, it's still finding like a lot of resonance within our core user base right now.
So going back to you mentioned, launching Ethereum. I think you announced that last month in your quest to go multi-chain. Um, yeah, I'm curious, like what you think about immediate success metrics there. Are you trying to reach a new audience, trying to increase the value prop for your existing users and creators? Like, how did you think through that expansion?
Yeah, we've always, to be honest, even from day zero at Magic Eden, we've always wanted to serve like the Ethereum ecosystem and go multi-chain. And part of the reason is, like the most storied collections and creators and like kind of like cultural tastemakers have launched like major collections on Ethereum. So there's many, many things we can learn by just serving communities in that ecosystem, right? So, in that sense, like we are very good like product builders and we've understood the game and the meta and the use cases on Sol really well. But we're really looking forward to like also using this as effectively like a learning opportunity to serve a different community on Ethereum. I think what in the long arc of NFT marketplaces, what we see is definitely like we want to provide more like chain agnostic value propositions to creators and users in the sense of we want to tell the creators, hey, you can whatever is you've now brought uh, your creativity to life through this NFT collection, but
Hmm.
we want to help you expand your audience.
Right.
The your creativity does not have to be limited to the technology that you've used, and like your audience does not have to be limited to the technology that you use. You really should be more about you communicating what's the benefit of this NFT community that you've created, and you should be able to expand that to any of the available audiences. So in that sense, if you look at Magic Eden, now like you can buy Ethereum launch pads with Sol, and you can mint Sol launch pads with Ethereum. And the
Hmm.
whole point of that feature is to say, hey, creator, you are no longer limited to the audience of the chain that you choose, but you can expand elsewhere. And there's many other features that we have um, that's like very much like ancillary to that. For example, we have another feature which is called whitelist management, and the whole point of that is for creators to basically customize and have much more precision on what type of holders they want to have as part of their community. So then they would whitelist those types of holders and to be able to mint out their collection. And again, it's the same thing. You as a creator, even though you launched a collection on Ethereum, you should be able to also target users on Solana, right?
Hmm.
And vice versa. And we want to enable those value propositions. So for us, like in the long arc of an NFT marketplace, we want to say the technology you choose should not limit the type of audience that you get to serve. And we want to give that flexibility to creators. And of course, at the same time, for collectors, it's the same thing, right? There is many, many Ethereum collectors who are like pretty, pretty wary of moving to a new ecosystem because they have to download a wallet,
Yep.
bridge all of their funds,
A lot of friction.
and exactly, and then like learn all the new meta and so on. So for us, we want to say, well, why can't you just do all of that within Magic Eden, right? So you can use ETH to buy Sol NFTs, and you don't have to worry about all of this wiring in between. And we are launching functionality to enable that as well.
Got it. Okay. That's super exciting. I mean, speaking as someone I've actually resisted doing too much in Solana just because all my infrastructure is set up on Ethereum. So,
Yeah, it's very, because I also moved from Ethereum to Sol, and initially like I basically from now I kind of sometimes I forget how complicated that whole thing was. But it
hmm.
was true. At the start, when I moved to Seoul, I was using like Solid Wallet or something, right? Which doesn't really even exist now. And then later on, I moved to Phantom, and then with Phantom, then you have like multiple seed phrases, and they're kind of different, and you have to store them in a different place than MetaMask.
Yes.
So yes, it is a high friction kind of process, and we do want to make that easier for folks.
Yeah. Although I will say, Phantom is so good. It's so much
Yeah,
better.
yeah. We love the Phantom back. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I did want to ask you. So, obviously, OpenSea did the opposite of what you guys did, right? Started in Ethereum, launched Solana over the summer. Didn't see a ton of success just in terms of taking market share. So, what do you think they did wrong? How do you avoid the similar fate when you guys expand into Ethereum?
Yeah, I think well, number one, we have a ton of like admiration and respect for the OpenSea team, right? They really were pioneers in the NFT space, and in some ways, they saw the opportunity much earlier than us, and we are like, kind of following in their footsteps.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think, I think for us, we are. I think we also don't know how our ETH launch is going to go, so like all things have to be heavily caveated. But I think our mindset is more around we we want to go deep into specific use cases and specific experiences. And we know that like only by serving users deeply and like can we hope to like attract them with our product. Whereas, so for example, we are not like a generalized marketplace that will serve every potential category of NFTs. We
Hmm.
don't do like one-on-one fine art. We don't do usernames. We don't do like, all these things. We only do two things. We do like collectibles, which is like large collections, and then we do gaming. And those are the only two things we want to do. And for us, we want to build heavily, uh, yeah, we want to build like basically a fairly vertical experiences for both of those categories. So
Hmm.
for example, in collectibles, we will have Launchpad, we will have whitelist management, like basically, come here and see what your eligible whitelists are. We will then have, of course, like a secondary market that can trade. But then we also have, if you look at Pro Mode also gives you a lot of data around like what is the action around these collections. To us, those are like very category specific, deep product experiences that we want to serve for our users. And likewise for gaming, we have a different philosophy there, which is gaming, you should be able to come here and play the game, like feel the value of whatever this NFT enabled game could give you before then you decide to buy. And
Hmm.
therefore, for Eden games, we have a portal where like users can play those games all together. And there's a very deep kind of product roadmap there. So that is our more like general mental model to hopefully like get a foothold into the Ethereum market. Yeah.
Yeah, no, super exciting. Awesome. Well, I just have one more question for you, and I always like to end on a look into the future and a prediction from someone who spends a ton of time in this space. Where is the NFT market next year? What's going on? What's happening? What progress have we made? And where's Magic Eden in all of that?
Yeah, I don't have any super special insights for the future, unfortunately. I think from our perspective, we think this is super early, right? And what we're really excited about is all these different types of creators coming in to try and use NFT technology to enable, to bring their vision to life, right? Whether it's collectibles founders, like basically NFT, like one-of-one fine artists, ticketing platforms, um, gaming studios. And Magic Eden's perspective is, hey, we want to serve those creators to basically reach their end users and like really kind of explore the boundaries of what NFT technology can bring. So in that sense, we're seeing a lot of creators use those use cases, and over the long arc of time, I'm sure some of those will be amazing hits. For Magic Eden, we have a couple of main priorities. Number one, we definitely want to land this like Ethereum launch and serve the users in Ethereum in a new way. Number two, we have some very exciting announcements for gaming that's coming up. So
Cool.
again, like gaming, we want to serve those gaming studios and gaming creators and make sure that their pain points of dealing with Web3 and blockchain technology are being solved. So we
Hmm.
want to land some big partnerships, and also we have some of our like initial like developer products rolling out right now. And lastly, like we have this concept of making Magic Eden more immersive and more experiential. So the whole idea for us was, um, like marketplaces, like why is NFT the hardest, like one of the hardest use cases in crypto, right? In the last cycle. Well, it's like fun, it's irreverent, it's social, right? Like people love trolling each other and there's like a bunch of adrenaline that's involved. But actually marketplaces come at the last, like most utilitarian step of that user journey, right? It's like when all the fun is had, you come to the marketplace and click some buttons and then it
Yeah,
goes into a wallet. But we think like great product and great experiences is something that people will love, right? And have that emotional connection to. So we want to make Magic Eden much more immersive, much more experiential. So then users will feel like, hey, this is actually a destination where I can like come and try out a bunch of new things. So that's what we are really evolving the product towards.
very exciting. Lots of interesting things to come, and I will be watching intently. Well, thank you
Awesome. Yeah.
so much for spending the time sharing more about your vision for Magic Eaton. It's been really fun and appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Lisa. Much appreciated.